Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be all about makeup brushes. Before I start today's video, I wanted to give a shout out to one of my subscribers, Jane. Thank you so much for this video suggestion. If any of you guys ever have a video suggestion, please let me know. Also, if you haven't already, please subscribe and like and share this video. That'd be really helpful. It's so exciting to try and just grow this community. Also, I wanted to apologize for my filming schedule. I am in college, so I think I'm going to just try to do about one video a week or so, but I will get in a more regular schedule as I get used to this. It's just, you know, a strange thing to get used to do throughout the week. So yeah, let's just jump into today's video. So we're going to start with complexion. So when applying foundation, I generally prefer a sponge. Now I have right here a Beauty Blender sponge. You can get these from Sephora for $20. I don't necessarily think that these are the only good sponges out there. Real Techniques has good sponges. There's an EcoTools one. Those can be found at both Ulta and Walmart. Just any good makeup sponge. I think the key to it is it being not too stiff. So once you run them underwater, you have to run them underwater to use them. That's when they expand and get really squishy. So they're not too dense, so they don't absorb everything, and they're not too hard when you're trying to put your foundation on. So look for one that's not too stiff. I really like these. I just run them underwater, and then I take my foundation, I put it on my hand, I take my finger and I dot it all around, and then I buff it in my face. But what I do is I bounce it like this, and I just press it into my skin, because that gives your skin a more flawless finish and doesn't, you know, smear it all around your face. So this way your foundation can actually go into your skin, and it might help it last all day that way, because it's actually pressed into your skin, it's not on the surface. So again, I really like sponges mainly because they don't leave brush strokes, and I like the finish. However, they may take a little longer compared to if you were using something like this. This is a Tarte brush. It's extremely dense and it's very soft, so there's lots of brushes. Generally, the more bristles you have, like the more dense brushes, the more product it'll pick up. So this will just buff in my foundation. Again, I'll dot it around my face and just buff it in. This is extremely fast, but when you use these, you're more at risk for brush strokes, and you might absorb a little more. Whenever you're using anything like this, you're gonna have some of your foundation absorbed into the product. I wouldn't use an extremely runny foundation like a serum foundation with a Beauty Blender sponge, because that might absorb it. I would use this to more medium consistency to thicker foundations. I use relatively runny foundations and I don't have that problem, but I don't use like serum ones that are essentially just water. Like anything that comes out of a dropper, I do not use with this. I use this with much thicker foundations because it doesn't absorb it, and I find that it just buffs it in really nicely. But if you're looking for another brush, they have good foundation brushes and good stippling brushes, which I can try to insert a picture of or a link down below, by Real Techniques. And those, so sorry, there's something on my lip. Those are really nice. I highly recommend those. Makeup brushes don't have to be super expensive. It depends what you want. You can buy cheaper brands, but they might not last as long, or you can buy really high quality, but you can also buy kind of in the middle. I like kind of in the middle, like Sigma brushes and Morphe. They're only online, and they're cheaper if you're only buying a few. Like I've spent, you know, $20 on 2 brushes, so $10 a brush isn't terrible, but I wouldn't recommend buying a whole set if you're a beginner, because that could be, you know, upwards of like $70 to $100. But definitely for a beginner, I would recommend Real Techniques, which can be found at Ulta and Walmart. I really like those. So the other type of foundation brush is this. This is a paddle brush. This is by Crown Brushes. I'm not really a fan of, you'll see me show a couple of the brushes with this mint green. I'm not a fan of these specific brushes. Some of the eye brushes are okay, but these are really nice, except they will leave the most strokes on your face, like paint marks, and like it's essentially a paintbrush for your face. So this also might take a little longer because it's not a very big brush. The reason I like using the Tarte brush, if I ever do, is because it's very fast to apply my foundation. So this is just a different type of foundation brush. The stippling brush I was talking about, which I will link down below or show a picture of, you just press it into your skin and then buff it in. It has more just straight up bristles, so it's like it's much smaller than the Tarte one I showed you, but those are pretty good too. Again, it's all about personal preference. Of course, when blending in concealer, I would use a medium-sized eyeshadow brush. This is a really small one, but something a bit bigger than this. You can just put it underneath your eyes and blend it in, or you can just continue to use whatever sponge or brush you're using. The Tarte one works. It's just kind of big and can be a little hard to get really up underneath there, or you can just blend it out with your fingers. Your under eye is a really gentle area of your face. I generally just use my sponge and my fingers, but you don't have to. Yeah. So now we can get into the powder brush. I'm kind of just going in order of how I would apply my makeup. So this is what I use to set my makeup. I use this for so many things. It's a Real Techniques brush. I love this brush so much. It's one of the most universal brushes ever. I will take my Rimmel Stay Matte powder and I'll dip it in and I'll press it all over my face. Or if I'm using my RC Mango color powder to bake my face, I'll take a little bit and with my beauty blender dampen it and put it on, and then I'll buff this away. If I have too much blush or contour, I'll buff this out, or if I don't have any other brushes on hand, I can squeeze this and use it to apply bronzer or whatever. But this is a really good brush. I've had this for so long, it never sheds. I really, really like this. So now we have contour and bronzer. This is a little brush I got in a Benefit boxed set. So this is you can find like little kabuki brushes like this. I know e.l.f. makes some, and also another good brand to look at is Wet n Wild. They have some white brushes with pink bristles. A lot of those I've heard are pretty good. But Sigma and Morphe are really good, but they're only online, and I wouldn't recommend buying a ton. If you're going to get some Sigma Morphe brushes, I would recommend trying, one or two of their blending brushes for your eyes, which I'll show in a second. But for this, this is not essential at all. I was just showing you an option to put on contour or bronzer. You could take a little bit on your brush and just put it in like this and blend it out. Or I use this, or generally I use this. This is the It Cosmetics brushes for Ulta. This is the travel size. It Cosmetics also makes really good brushes. They're just kind of more expensive. I'll take my bronzer or contour and I'll dip it in and I'll just go like this right in the hollows of my cheeks right here, and I'll go above my forehead down here and just blend a little down. I just like this because it's fluffy enough to blend it out but it's still dense to pick up product. It's a really good happy medium. But again, if I have too much still, I'll just blend it out with this. So on to highlights, I have this Morphe G37 brush and a Sigma F41 fan brush. So this brush is actually, I'm pretty sure, considered a small taper contour, but I saw Kathleen Lights on YouTube raving about it as a highlighting brush, and it's really good. It's very dense, but it's not too dense to the point where you can't blend with it a little bit. So I take my highlight and I'll apply it like this on my cheekbones in circular motions to press it into my skin. I really do like this brush. I think that it's excellent for applying a really strong amount of highlight. This is better if you're trying to make it more subdued. I would use this if it's a really tightly packed, like more gelée type formula. Like the Wet n Wild Precious Petals is pretty stiffly packed in there. So I like using this with it. I get more intense highlight. If the product's a little more powdery and when you put your finger in it, a lot of powder goes everywhere, you could use this. It doesn't really matter. This generally just provides more intense application than this does. I find that this is also, you can use it for contouring and other things, and this I really only use for highlight. So onto eye brushes, I have this angled brush by Rite Aid. If you can find any Rite Aid brushes, I haven't really found them online in a while. They're really, really good. So this is just an angled brush. I use this with my NYX eyebrow cake powder, and I will fill in my eyebrows with it. I really, really like this brush. They also have an excellent contour brush. These are just really useful for your eyebrows. You can apply eyeliner, like gel eyeliner, with angled brushes, or apply eyeshadow under your lash line. Yeah. So now we have a pencil brush. Looks like this. These you could take eyeshadow with and get really close to under your lash line, get on your inner corner, above your lash line, anything like that. I don't use these as often. These are just smaller brushes. The ones I would really recommend to invest in, or at least just have, one good one, is a blending brush. This is the Sigma Taper Blending E40. So it's really fluffy. I really, really like this brush. I will apply a transition shade on my crease, or I'll just blend everything out with this. I really, really like this brush. I got these two together for I think $20 or so. And this is the Sigma E25 blending brush. So this is a bit smaller and it's a bit better to get into my crease, so I use these two. These are really, really good brushes. I really recommend getting good blending brushes because blending is the most important step of eyeshadow. And then I have this Anastasia Beverly Hills brush. This is the end of it. This is kind of like a crease and blending brush. A lot of eyeshadow palettes, especially like the high-end ones, come with brushes, and I would recommend to use those. I really like most of them. And this is a shader brush on the end. The shader brushes are good to apply a shimmery shade on the lid, so they're really dense and smaller and they can pack on the shadow on the lid. I would recommend having at least one of them, but you don't necessarily need a lot because a lot of people just prefer to use their finger to apply a shimmer shade on the lid because that gives a really, intense, sometimes foiled effect. So overall, if you don't use eyebrow products or things like that, I wouldn't necessarily say you need an angled brush, or I don't personally use the pencil brush all the time. I would just recommend a couple, like 1 or 2 good blending brushes, a shader brush, and if you wear highlight, at least get 1 highlighting brush, 1 contour brush, and a good powder brush, and then a foundation or beauty sponge. So you could have as many brushes as you want. If you clean your brushes really frequently, you only need 1 to 3 of each. 1 if you're a beginner for sure. I honestly don't own many more blending brushes than this. I only own a couple more, so I don't think you need to grab a bunch at once, just to have at least 1 to start yourself off. But yeah, so I hope this video was helpful. Again, if you have not already, please click subscribe so you can see other videos of mine whenever I upload, and please like and share, and yeah, so I hope you have a great day. Thanks for watching.